Aloha, welcome to A Course in Miracles, Workbook, Lesson 43. We started a few lessons ago talking about God. I'm blessed as a son of God. Lesson 41, God goes before me wherever I go. Lesson 42, God is my strength and vision is His gift. And then today, Lesson 43, God is my source. I cannot see apart from Him. So perception is not an attribute of God, it says. His is the realm of knowledge. So we're talking about two realms. The realm that God is in, which is the realm of knowledge. And then the realm of perception, which is the realm where we have created. Remember, perception is us projecting our thoughts outside of ourselves. And that's what we call seeing. Really, the Course says image making. So God doesn't know that way of, it's not one of His attributes. God just knows. And we perceive, or we project. And so there's these two realms, and we want to get to the point where our perception, with the help of the Holy Spirit, is so much like heaven that it'll be easy for us to make the transition into this realm. So it says, God has created the Holy Spirit as the mediator between perception, the realm of perception, and the realm of knowledge. And why did we create this realm of perception? The Course tells us that it's because we wanted to be right. We want to prove that we are right and that God is wrong. That what I mean by right, I mean that the separation did occur and that we are separate from our brothers and sisters and from God. And God is wrong when He says the separation has never occurred, that thoughts cannot leave their source. We are like thoughts in the mind of God, our source. And there's no way that we can leave that mind and become our own mind. And that we are something other than the way we were originally created. God says we are still as we were originally created. We're not sinners. We're not. This whole world is an illusion. But we are trying to prove that we are right and God is wrong. So we created this world of perception, the Course tells us. But thank goodness we have the Holy Spirit that came with us into this world of perception. And He is the link or the mediator that allows us to get back. Or she. A lot of people like to think of the Holy Spirit as the feminine part of the Godhead. And also I've heard in the Jerusalem version of A Course in Miracles that the Holy Spirit is feminine in that version. So he or she is the mediator between perception and knowledge, and without this link, the Holy Spirit with God, perception would have replaced knowledge forever in your mind. With this link with God, perception will become so changed and purified that it will lead us to knowledge. That is its function as the Holy Spirit sees it. So the ego has has a function for perception to prove that we are right and God is wrong. But the way the Holy Spirit reinterprets what we have made perception is that it is going to be the very thing, what we created to prove the separation is real, is going to be the very thing the Holy Spirit uses to show us that that separation is just an illusion. So amazing. Therefore, this function, perception, to lead us back to knowledge, once it's been purified by the Holy Spirit, that is perception's function as the Holy Spirit sees it. In truth, it says. If in God you cannot see as we think of seeing, perception has no function in God and doesn't exist. God just knows. Perception, you can perceive things a million different ways, but in knowledge, you either know or you don't know. And so in God, there is no perception. He doesn't perceive the world. Perception has different degrees of things, and there are no, contrasts. That's the way we perceive, by contrast. Light and dark, depth, all these different laws of perception and projection. But in God, He sees everything and everyone as the same. That's kind of what we're setting ourselves up in the mind training when the lessons say, don't exclude anything. Because the ego has this whole thought system, that's built on specialness. Some things are specialness. Some things are more dangerous or better or worse. But in God, there is no comparisons. It's all the same. Like it's all love without an opposite. So here we are. Let's get back. In God you cannot see. Perception has no function in God and does not exist. Yet, in salvation, which is the undoing of what never was, like the world that we perceive as real never was, the undoing of what never was, perception has a mighty purpose. So the Holy Spirit's going to use it. Made by the Son of God, that's us, for an unholy purpose. It must become the means for the restoration of our holiness to our awareness. It's going to be the means. Perception, the Holy Spirit is purifying our perception through this course, through these workbook lessons, and is going to use it as the means of restoring our own holiness to our awareness. Perception has no meaning, yet does the Holy Spirit give it a meaning very close to God's. Healed perception becomes the means by which the Son of God, that's us, forgives his brother and thus forgives ourselves. So because we're one, we forgive others. That's the way we forgive ourselves. Because we're one. Like Jesus said, love your brother as yourself, because they are ourselves. And whatever we do to others, we do it to ourselves. That was his teaching. And that's because we are one. So we're going to perceive this oneness, and then we're going to forgive ourselves by forgiving our brother. It's awesome. And it really works, too. It really works. You cannot see apart from God because you cannot be apart from God. See there, that's the truth. We cannot be apart from God. We are not separated from God. And that's why we cannot see apart from God, because when we're in this illusion that we are apart from God and we think we're seeing, we're not seeing, because we can't be apart from God and see. Whatever you do in Him, because whatever you think with His mind. We are not separate. If vision is real, and it is real, to the extent to which it shares the Holy Spirit's purpose, then you cannot see apart from God. And we're talking about really seeing. What we think of as seeing is not really seeing. It's image making. It's projection. 3 5-minute practice periods are required today, as one as early and one as late as possible in the day. The third may be undertaking at the most convenient and suitable time that circumstances and readiness permit. Remember, we want to be ready for this time. We don't want to just rush it, but we want to have some time that we can really devote 100% of our mind to it. At the beginning of these practice periods, repeat the idea for today to yourself with your eyes open. Okay, we're used to that. God is my source, and I cannot see apart from Him. And then glance around you for a short time, applying the idea specifically to what you see. We're used to that too. 4 or 5 subjects for this phase of practice period are sufficient. You might say, for example, God is my source. I cannot see this desk apart from Him. Or God is my source. I cannot see that picture on the wall apart from Him. Although this part of the exercise period should be relatively short, be sure that you select subjects for this purpose of practicing indiscriminately. Remember, God sees everything the same. Perception doesn't, but knowledge does. So that's why we don't want to discriminate. Without self-directed inclusion or exclusion. So we don't want to, in our mind, I want to pick this, but that's not important, I'm not going to. No, it's everything. Everything. Whatever we're looking at, no matter what, God is my source. I cannot see it apart from Him. And it means really see it. Not see our projection of it, but really see it. For the second and longer phase, close your eyes. Okay, so we had our eyes open, now we're going to close our eyes. And repeat today's idea again, and then let whatever relevant thoughts occur to you add to the idea in your own personal way. Thoughts such as, I see through the eyes of forgiveness. Or I see the world as blessed. The world can show me myself. I see my own thoughts, which are like God's. Any thought related more or less directly to today's idea is suitable. The thoughts need not bear any obvious relationship to the idea, but they should not be in opposition to it. If you find your mind wandering, if you begin to be aware of thoughts which are clearly out of accord with today's idea, or if you seem to be unable to think of anything, open your eyes, repeat the first phase of the exercise period, and then attempt the second phase again. Do not allow any protracted period to occur in which you become preoccupied with irrelevant thoughts. Return to the first phase of the exercise as often as you need to do to prevent this. So if you're doing the second phase where you got your mind closed and all kinds of thoughts are coming that have nothing to do with this exercise, just go back to the first phase again. Start over, and you look around the room. God is my source. I cannot see that couch apart from him. And then try the second phase again. Return to the first phase of the exercise as often as necessary to prevent this irrelevant thoughts, preoccupation. In applying today's idea in the shorter practice periods, the form may vary according to the circumstances and situations in which you find yourself during the day. When you are with someone else, for example, try to remember to tell them silently, God is my source, and I cannot see you apart from him. This form is equally applicable to strangers as it is to those you think are closer to you. In fact, try not to make distinctions. Here we are with the distinctions of this kind at all. They're a friend, they're not a friend, but this is equal. Whoever it is, God is my source. I cannot see you apart from him or her. Today's idea should also be applied throughout the day to various situations and events that may occur, particularly to those which seem to distress you in any way. For this purpose, apply the idea in this form. God is my source. I cannot see this situation apart from him. If no particular subject presents itself to your awareness at the time, merely repeat the idea in its original form. Try today not to allow any long periods of time to slip by without remembering today's idea, and thus remembering your function. Your function. All right, so there you go. That's lesson 43. Have fun with it today. It should be fun. It will be fun. Aloha to you, love to you, peace to you. And I look forward, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.